Hello Linux fans, Rob here. Welcome to Linux Quest. I finally get a look here at the new point release of Solus. This is 2017.01.01.0, 64-bit version. Now I have this installed on some really old hardware. It's an Asus, I think it's the R1, with 2 gigs of RAM and a slow Intel processor. This has a touchscreen on it, and everything worked out of the box. Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, touchscreen worked, even with the pen. So I was kind of impressed to see that. This edition is the Mate Desktop Edition, and I want to focus in on a few things pertaining to the Mate Desktop Edition. I really like Mate set up within Solus. And one of the new additions is the Brisk Menu. So we're going to get into that a little bit. Good and bad here. I'm really pleased with what's going on with the Brisk Menu. There's room for improvement, of course, but it's extremely fast. And if you caught the Destination Linux podcast episode 4, myself and Rocco kind of shared the same thought here. It's just, extremely fast, and we really like the modern look and feel. Fairly close to what you would see with an XFCE type setup, where you could put your categories here on the left, with your main applications here on the right. You also have end session, lock the screen, and turn off the device with quick access to the control center and the software center. Now my understanding is there's going to be an addition of favorites, so you could put that link here or main category here for a list of favorites, or you may actually put a line here and add favorites room for a list of favorites here. We'll see how that progresses. Now what I want to do is I want to point out several things. I'm going to go through Solus with Mate Desktop for sure here, but I want to point out a couple of differences or options that you have as far as menu launchers are concerned. So we're going to right click on the panel here and click Add to Panel. Now one thing I like about the Mate Desktop environment is you've got a list here of various applets and menus and things that you can add to the panel. And they're very quick and easy to add. So we're going to add the main menu and the menu bar, and we're just going to kind of go through those differences between really your 3 menu options. So let's slide this one over. You can right click that icon and click move. So we're going to take that one over here. We'll leave the application bar. Well, we'll move it over a little bit as well. So we'll have the application bar. So now the new Brisk Menu here, again with your categories on the left, search here to the top, and it's so fast. So we're going to go in here just as quickly as you can type it, it pulls up. So very impressed with that. And again, very clean, modern, very fast. So this may be hard to tell, but I'm going to go from category to category, and you see how quickly the applications populate through the list. All right, now let's go over here to the menu bar. Now this was my favorite menu launcher within Mate prior to the Brisk Menu, but you'll see here it's a little slower to populate. Still not slow, certainly by Windows standards. Everything pops up fairly fast. Now also, besides applications, you also have places and you have system within the menu bar. So that's one option. And then you have the default menu. So this was the original, I believe this was the original menu for Mate. And again, not bad, but it does populate slower. And it's, it's not as modern looking. It's kind of got an older look to it. So those are your 3 options. And I certainly am already favoring the Brisk Menu. However, I did run into an issue, and that is once I installed an application or 2, I noticed that they actually did not populate into the Brisk Menu. So here you see under Sound and Video we've got 3 applications: Rhythmbox, Sound Settings, and VLC Media Player. Well, I installed Simple Screen Recorder to do this review, and it didn't populate. But if you go into the other 2 menus, you'll see Simple Screen Recorder there. So not sure what's going on. Maybe I need to do a log out and log back in, or perhaps a reboot for that to kind of register with the Brisk Menu. So that's something to be aware of. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and remove these and kind of move on to a few other things. Let's jump over here. First of all, I just wanted to let you know, and we'll pull this up. It's going to be different. Let's see here. So when I did a cold boot on this thing, I went in and took a look, and we were right at 452 megabyte of RAM usage. You can see now we're at about 633, and that's with recording software. So really impressive from the memory standpoint. We'll just take a quick look here at system. Again, this is release 2017.01.01.0 64-bit, with the kernel being 4.8.15, very recent kernel there. So, really nice update, and the Mate desktop version is 1.16.1. And you can see here, this is 2 gigs of RAM we're running this on. So if you see any lag anywhere, it's not the OS, it's definitely the hardware. So I want to take a look at a few other things here as far as changes are concerned. So we'll jump over to the Solus page. I should have had this loaded. Now you'll notice this takes a minute to launch. So let's just head over to the blog here. And I just want to go over a few of the changes in this snapshot. So improvements out of the box. And some of this, well, most of this is just going to apply to the OS itself, not necessarily the desktop version that you choose. So, and I'm not going to go through everything here. You can certainly read this for yourself. One of the changes here, it's shipping with Firefox 50.1.0 and Thunderbird 45.6. So they're talking about Firefox bringing security fixes on top of other improvements in the 50 series. And Thunderbird's going to deliver some bug fixes and security fixes. Now here under graphics and kernel, again you're going to see the updated kernel, and then you get 13.0.2 for the OpenGL compatible 3D graphics library. And under NVIDIA drivers here, they list what has been updated. Under the Software Center, they've expanded some of the categories, so now you're going to see an Office category and a Programming category. So that's a nice addition. But what I was really happy to see were some additions to the third-party category, and the big one for me is in sync. That's what I use to sync everything up with my Google Drive, and so to see that there now makes that really something that I've got to consider. I've got to go in really and look at what else software-wise is there, because I'm truly considering running this version of Solus as my daily driver. And InSync was one of the pieces of the puzzle for me. So very nice to see that. Now some other things that they have done here is they've added software information, additional software information such as the software license information, and then additional translations. So that's always good to see. Now they go on to talk here about some of the budgie differences, where they get into some additions with the settings. And again, I wanted to focus here for this one, for this particular video, on the Mate Edition. So let's scroll on down to that. So here they're talking about the Brisk Menu, and you can kind of read all the details there. And then lots of packages that have been added to this release, and a few that have been removed. So if you have interest here, definitely jump over to the blog page, and you can go into detail for the video. I'm not going to go into all of the details, but I do want to continue on with an overview here of Mate desktop running within Solus. It has become for me my preferred Solus edition. You've got the Brisk Menu, which I think we're just going to see continued improvements there. You've got some options here with the panel, just general things that you have access to within the Mate desktop environment, which I appreciate. I also really am a fan of the Kaja file manager, and this is something that, running various versions of the Mate desktop, or excuse me, running various OSs with the Mate desktop, the Kaja file manager has grown on me. But you've got all of the options you need there to go in and make this a very usable, more than just a simple file manager like you would see in, say, Elementary OS or GNOME, for example. You've got more features that you can go in and set up with this file manager. So you can zoom in, zoom out, arrange items. That's all typical stuff. But if you right click on a folder, you've got options such as copy to, move to, and that's already set up for you here without having to go in and add extensions or spend a lot of time within your settings for the file manager. You could make a link or go ahead and rename from here. You also have compress right here, and again, didn't have to go in. I didn't set up any extensions. I didn't really have to go in and configure much at all. Now here we've got a couple of views. You've got icon view, list view, as well as compact view, and those are all adjustable as far as icon size, folder size, and you'll notice if we go all the way out, you'll see the icons change to scale down to a different set of icons, more like avatars there. So we're going to go ahead and zoom back in, and let's go into, and I don't want to get too bogged down here, but there's so many things to show you. Backgrounds and emblems. So this is something that is kind of nice. You can go in and change colors and patterns and backgrounds and emblems. That gives you some control there. And that's a feature that's nice because there are programs that you can install, such as InSync, for example, which add these really ugly, large, oversized emblems to the folders, showing you basically that yes, that folder is synchronized. And so you've got some control here to go in and adjust that or even remove that, I believe. So really full-featured in a lot of ways. We'll go into preferences here. You can sort your folders and files, or folders before files, which is always nice. Compact layout, which is typically what I'll use. You can go in and set up your default zoom levels. Single click to open files, which is nice. Include a delete command. And then I'm going to go in here and turn that off. Let's see here. We're going to turn all of these off, and I'll show you why in just a sec here. So icon captions, if you leave those on, and you go into your icon view, sometimes, and I don't really have documents in here to show you what I wanted to show you, but at any rate, you could see these long descriptions, and if you toggle all of that off, you just get these nice, clean views of your files and folders with just the name. So anyway, again, a file manager here within Mate that has really grown on me and has become a pleasure to use. It's really very close to Dolphin, in as far as I'm concerned, in being a really nice file manager. And Dolphin is my #1 pick in file managers. Alright, so we'll move on from there. Really happy to see that. As I'm going through this, I got to tell you, as I'm going through this and kind of pointing out these things, it's like I'm really seriously getting close to probably installing this. It's just going to depend on the software. And so with that said, let's jump into the Software Center and we'll take a look at that. That'll be the deciding factor for me, is do I have access to everything I need to run this OS day in, day out. So I love the Software Center here. I love what they've done with it, and I like the improvements with additional categories. So you've got, and it keeps with the rest of the OS as far as the theming is concerned, as far as the way things are laid out. It's got a really good cohesive feel. So here on the left, you're going to see categories. You've got Home, Update, so this would be your main update area. And I had one small update with install, and I love this discombobulating update matrix. I mean, that sounds like something you would hear out of Star Trek. I love it. This will show you a list of what is installed, and you'll notice that you'll see icons for some packages, and then other packages which necessarily don't have icons to begin with. You'll just see a default icon. Look here. So that's what you're seeing as I scroll through. It would be nice if the icons kind of would pull over from the existing theme And I haven't compared them to see. That's kind of nitpicking, but just for consistency. So that'll show you what's installed. And then here is your third-party list. And this has grown over time. I first took a look at Solus middle of last year, and so this is a list that's getting larger, which is good. You've got Android Studio for development there with Android apps. Bitwig Studio, which I'm not familiar with, Password Manager, Impasse, Flash Player, which is a nice addition, I think. Although Flash is slowly but surely, Flash is going away, I think. It'll be around for some time, but you're starting to see where mainstay browsers are not supporting Flash. Let's see here, Google Chrome Beta and Google Chrome. And then the dev version, as well as Google Talk, the plugin for Google Talk, Google Earth, Idea. And here it is in sync, which I'm thrilled to see. I'm not familiar with this. Mendeley Desktop Free Reference Manager, not familiar with that. Not familiar with MoneyDance, a personal finance manager. The Opera web browser, and the Plex Media Server. So a growing list here. There's Skype. Some people are not going to be happy to see Skype in there, but hey, if you use Skype, it's nice that it's there. Spotify. Let's see here, anything else? And Viber, and then the WPS Office Suite. So that's an Office Suite that I use. I kind of go back and forth between WPS and LibreOffice, so there's another addition to the list of software that I like to use. So let's jump back up and go to Home, because we're going to spend some time here. This is important. The reason it's important is if you're not familiar with Solus, they control their own software repository. And what I mean by that is, and I'm going to put this in terms for someone who maybe is not familiar with what a repository is and how things work within Linux. So various Linux operating systems pull their software or store their software in a repository. So if you think of a filing cabinet, for example, where you would have various folders with applications sitting there ready to be used. That's, in its simplest terms, what a repository is. Some repositories are larger than others. So if you were to look at Ubuntu, for example, which is a very popular Linux OS, and you look at their repository, it's going to be a fairly large repository where you'll have access to a tremendous amount of software. And then if you want to go one step better and you're running an Arch-based distribution, you're going to have a repository with a section called the Arch User Repository that is humongous. You're going to find 99% of the software that you want within the AUR on an Arch-based system. All right, so let's go back to Solus here. SolusOS is a Linux operating system that is built from the ground up. This is not an operating system that is based off of Ubuntu or based off of Red Hat Linux or anything like that. This was built from scratch, built from the ground up, and I've got a tremendous amount of respect for the team involved in doing what they're doing here, because it's extremely hard to go in and build everything as it needs to be and to cover all of your bases with a new OS like this. And I'm kind of getting sidetracked here, but I wanted to kind of lay down the groundwork so that you understand what's going on with the software center within SolusOS. They have their own repository, so their own filing cabinet where they keep all of their applications. Now these applications are limited compared to other distributions. However, the applications that are here have been very well tested. They're known to work with the OS very well. You're less likely to find weird or odd issues with any of the software that's going to be in this list of their software center. Alright, so with all that said, it's a good thing as far as the way they're doing it, but it could be limited if there's one particular piece of software that you need, and it's not here in the Software Center. However, with all of that said, the team at SolusOS has, I think it's within their forum, an area where you can go and request software. And I hear mixed results there. I've heard people say, hey, I went in and did a request, and wow, it was there within a day or two. And then I've seen other remarks where people said, well, I've sent a request in a month ago, and where is it? And I'm not going to get into all of that. I just wanted you to be aware of how this is set up. And now let's just kind of go through some of the software. For the most part, you're going to find all of the tools that you need to run, I'm going to say, a standard operating system where you would do your typical things on a computer. Use the web browser, access email or email clients, file management, a few games, theming, on and on. So if we go here, you're going to see main categories and then subcategories. So let's go to Office software, for example, which is new. And here you're going to see Office software and a fairly long list of Office software here. LibreOffice being one of the key applications here. Scribus, which is a very nice layout publication program. Let's see here. LibreCAD, so the full Libre suite. GNOME Maps, Dictionary, Contacts, Calendar, Focuswriter, Font Manager, and AbiWord. So decent list there. Note-taking software. Gnote, Simple Note, that's great. That's one that I use and have featured in Cool Linux Tools. Let's go back over here to ebook. So nice list there. Ocular, events, so good list there. Good addition. Just to give you an example here, and if we go to multimedia and graphics, you're going to see 7 subcategories. So if we go to video software, you're going to see a lot that you recognize if you're a Linux user. Cheese for photos and webcam. GUVC view, which is great if you have a webcam that you're using. Kdenlive for video editing, that's great to see. OBS Studio, that's a very popular screen recording and streaming software package. Let's see here, Simple Screen Recorder, which I'm using, SM Player, Totem, VLC. Now it's interesting, but I do not see, unless I missed it, it's alphabetical here, no OpenShot. So that's interesting. Kdenlive is my preferred at this current time. It does a really nice job for video editing. Let's see here, and all right, so you've got codecs. So a long list there. So I'm seeing improvement here in the number of software packages available, and certainly some nice additions as far as the third-party software is concerned. There's still a ways to go. I know as soon as I post this video, there will be remarks of people saying, I've been waiting for 6 months for software A, or and I'm sure those are important to you. I mean, I understand that. You've got software that's important to you that you need to use for whatever it is that you do. But I think there's definitely improvement going on here, so I'm happy to see that. I'm not gonna go through a lot more here as far as the main categories or anything like that. You could go in and you can search. Searching is fairly fast. So if we go here again, you go to VLC, and well, there we go. So you'll see VLC as well as other things that might have something to do with VLC pull up. So again, as I'm going through this mentally in the back of my mind, as I'm going through and doing this video, I'm kind of really paying attention to what software is available, because it looks like for my use case scenario, there may be everything I need here to install this as my daily driver. What I would recommend that you do is you go to the SolusOS website if you're interested in running SolusOS, be it the Budgie desktop version or the Mate version, and really spend some time researching what software is available there, and then you can make a determination if it's got everything that you need. All right, well, let's step through a few other things here, and I promise I won't get bogged down in too many details as we go along here. So let's jump over to the Control Center. Really nice job here with the Control Center. I like the bold categories for your different areas of control: administration, hardware, internet, network. These are small details, but these are things that make it easy for someone to go in and quickly see where they are and what they're doing. You also have the categories here on the left as well. Now, I'm not seeing any color change as I go through these, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but well, there is. There we go. So it's changing from a gray to a blue. I just didn't notice it. So again, a way to highlight. What would be nice to see is not only the color change in the main category, but if you could do a light gray panel to select that particular category that you've just clicked on, that would be a nice addition. Again, those small things really help with an OS day in, day out, especially with new users. Oops, didn't mean to launch that. Let's close that. And we'll close this. So under administration, you're going to see network, printer settings, shared folders, software center, time and date, things like that. Under hardware, display, hardware drivers, keyboard, sound settings. So under display, I've got a external monitor set up here with the laptop monitor turned off. You'll see resolution here at 1440 by 900. You can set refresh rate, things like that. And the dual monitor setup was really simple, straightforward, no issues. Let's look under hardware drivers. There's probably nothing there. Let's see here. Searching for available drivers. No drivers were found for the system. So pretty straightforward there. And that's where if you've got an NVIDIA sound card or excuse me, NVIDIA graphics card or something like that, you're going to want to go in and set up the hardware drivers to make sure you're getting the best driver you can for your particular video card. Under sound settings here, really straightforward. Sound effects, hardware, input, output, applications. And again, everything theme-wise and UI-wise stays really, really consistent and just gives the overall feel that it's just a nice, cohesive, well put together OS. So, I'm impressed from that standpoint. Screens, so let's move on here. Internet network, you've got network connections, network proxy. Look and feel, you've got appearance, so you could get into theming. And I haven't done anything with the theming other than change the wallpaper. But here you've got a selection of wallpapers. Not the most attractive wallpapers I've ever seen in my life, but you can pull those in from the web and get really whatever you want. So we're not going to get hung up on wallpapers. You've got font control here, and then additional interface controls where you could toggle on or off to show the icons in the menus. Now the theming here is pretty strong. I mean, you can go in and change everything from your folder appearance, your icon appearance, title bars, so on and so forth. So if we were to launch into customize, you've got a selection here of arc dark, and this is the arc darker that's set up by default. Let's see, Raleigh, Menta, Green Laguna. I really like the default look of this. Right after install, I kind of was bouncing around and I thought, no, this is nice. There's not a whole lot I would need to do here. The arc icons are very nice and clean in appearance. Some of these other icons, Mocha, this is not really illustrating what Mocha actually looks like. Same with Faba. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm not going to change anything at this point. And the other thing that I was happy to see here was the Breeze Snow pointer icon. So the Breeze pointer icon has always been one of my favorites. It looks more modern than the default Mate, I think. So overall, lots that you can go in here and change. I will tell you too, there's enough here to get yourself into trouble. So if you're not familiar with what you're doing as far as setting up the different themes and things like that, you know, you could change some things and really get it all out of sorts, but it's easy enough. You could go in and you could save your default setup and give it a name so that you know to not mess with that and leave it as a default. You could call it default, for example, and then choose one of the other themes that you base your changes off of. That way, if you get things really messed up, you can always go back to your default. So again, very nice with the control panel and everything here. Let's see what else. Let's take a look at what is pre-installed. So we'll go under Accessories. You've got Disk for managing your drives and media, the Mate search tool, screenshot tool, password manager here with password management, encrypted password management. Under Graphics, I have Mate image viewer and the Mate color selection. Under Internet, you've got Firefox pre-installed, Hex Chat, Thunderbird, and Transmission. Nice little detail here. You see the pop-up. So for someone new, they don't, you know, maybe they've never heard of Hex Chat, so chat with other people online. Again, one of those small details that's very helpful if you're new to an OS, especially if you're new to Linux. Under Office, LibreOffice, interestingly enough, was not pre-installed. You've got the dictionary and a document viewer. Under Sound and Video, what you're seeing here in this list is everything that was pre-installed, because so far what I've installed has not populated into the Brisk menu. VLC was pre-installed, Sound Settings, and Rhythm Box. And then under System Tools, not a big lineup. You've got the File Manager, Gparted for partition management, Disk Usage Analyzer, the System Monitor, Terminal, and Power Statistics. Universal Access, that would give you a screen reader and onboard keyboard. And then we launched into Control Panel there earlier. And Software Center, which we took a look at. So fairly light upon first install, and that doesn't bother me. It's got enough pre-installed that, you know, you could get around and get started. And you know, in my case, under Office, for example, now that WPS Office is included, that would be my choice currently over LibreOffice. However, I am starting to spend more time with LibreOffice just to make sure that I'm not missing anything there. So just really happy with this. Right-click contextual menu here for various desktop actions. Create a folder, create a launcher, change the background. So we'll launch into that. And so this puts us back at the theme area that we were looking at earlier. But you can access that just by right-click, change desktop background. Alright, so you've got your standard controls here where you have time. So you'll get a calendar pop up. If you right-click, you'll get a list where you can go into preferences for the time. So here we're at 24-hour format. I'm going to change that to 12 if you wanted to show the date. You could also show the weather and show the temperature. I don't have the locations or anything like that set up currently, but you could set up your location, your weather, change that to Fahrenheit, for example. Toggle off show week numbers in calendar. So lots of control there. So you'll see all of that's changed here. Looks like we've got a show the desktop menu action there. I didn't notice that earlier. You've got the battery, so left click you could go right into preferences. And so you've got options here on AC power, options on battery power, general, display brightness, things like that. And from OS to OS, these applets within Mate are pretty well close to the same as far as the actions. However, what you will notice is that the overall theming And the size, you'll notice here with the screen recorder, you've got a kind of out of ordinary large icon that pops up here. But within other OSs, you'll notice that sometimes the applet icons that are here in the taskbar area, or this panel area here, are sometimes out of proportion, but here they're really consistent, with the exception of the screen recorder here. So just, I think, a great job. I think by the end of the year 2017, I think that Solus is going to continue to climb in popularity. I think they're making the right additions, the right improvements. I love the fact that they've got options now with Mate and Budgie Desktop. So I know there are a lot of Budgie fans out there, and it's certainly a nice desktop environment, nice UI and everything. I just happen to prefer Mate, and so really happy to see this in place. I'm just, again, as I'm going through this with you, I'm thinking that this could certainly be my daily driver, and may give it a run, actually, now that I'm seeing some of the things available in the software repositories that would allow me to kind of use everything I need to use. So certainly give this a look. If Solus is something that hasn't been on your radar, I think that now you've got options here with a better menu, with the Brisk Menu, although there's certainly room for improvement there. And just the overall feel, this really feels right. It feels cohesive. The Mate desktop on top of SolusOS, the two feel like they were meant to be, really, in my opinion. So I hope this helps. I know I went on a little long with this one, but really like what I see here, and we will check you later.